Hello there, World of Tankers. I'm Blitz, and in today's video, I'm going to be talking about the biggest and baddest derp guns in World of Tanks Blitz, or at least my top 5 picks on them. So, of course, if you guys like this type of content, please make sure to hit that subscribe button down below. Really helps out the channel. Let me know you want to see more like this by hitting that like button down below. But the way I picked my top 5 tanks is, of course, when you think of a derp gun, there are two things that come into my mind personally. First of all, a derp gun has to have a very, very large alpha, especially for the tier it is in. And second of all, it has to be a very unwieldy gun. You don't get that derp aspect unless it's just that lucky shell that flies across the map, true with your aim, right into the enemy tank, sort of like a KV2 on full dispersion. So in today's video, I'm going to be talking about my top 5 picks, but let's get straight into it. Hitting the number 5 spot, we have the Nightmare. Now, this tank necessarily isn't the best vehicle. It doesn't carry the most armor, doesn't carry the most accuracy or penetration, but one thing it does have is a massive derp gun. It carries a 105mm howitzer at tier 5. This thing with high explosive has around 60mm of high explosive penetration. Now, if you come into accounting that literally most light tanks and mediums have less than 60mm on the side and some of them in the front, you can literally whip off 410 average damage from most vehicles you're coming up against in tier 5, let alone in a tier 4 game. This tank is extremely deadly if you are going up against anything you can easily penetrate. Now, I will say, going up against tier 6 tanks, yeah, this thing really quickly falls apart because barely penetrates them, but that is the whole point of a derp gun. It's not accurate, doesn't have the best penetration, but if this thing does penetrate, even with the standard ammo, it still takes off 280 average damage. That's a lot of average damage for a tier 8 medium tank, let alone a tier 5 tank destroyer. Jumping up the list into number 4 and jumping up the tier, we have the KV2, carrying a 152mm bunker buster. Now, this tank is unique in every single way, pretty much compared to any other tier 6 tank in the game. It's unique in its looks, the gun, and even its playstyle. And that's because you can literally one-shot some tier 5 vehicles right off the bat using your standard ammo, which deals a whopping 640 average damage. That is a crazy amount when you think that this vehicle is only a tier 6 tank. Now, it does not have the best standard penetration, neither the best premium penetration, but one thing it does carry a lot of is high explosive penetration. It means that if you get the side of pretty much any medium tank or light tank in the game, even some heavy vehicles, you can literally take 960 damage off in a singular shell. Now, if you're looking at tier 5 vehicles, 960 damage will pretty much kill any single tier 5 tank you are aiming at. Tier 6 vehicles, unless it's a heavy tank, you can still pretty much one-shot with any high roll any tier 6 vehicle in the game, and even some tier 7 tanks like tank destroyers, you can literally one-shot with a singular shell in a KV2. And that's what makes this thing just such a deadly vehicle on the battlefield. Now, this thing is a menace to run as well. It has probably the worst gun handling statistics in the game. With dispersion, I'm pretty sure it's like 0.45, and as well the aiming time just being astronomical. This tank is pure fun to drive. If you don't have it, I would definitely suggest to go and get it. It's only a tier 6, it's not that much of a grind, and honestly, it is pure fun playing this tank. Even when you don't do well in it, it's just fun to have that one game where you literally one-shot the entirety of a tier 5 or even a tier 7 hit point pool right back into the garage. Getting into number 3, we have the bigger older brother of the KV2. Let's say you grab a KV2 and you say, you know what, we want to buff this tank on every single statistic and bring it up a tier, but make it even better than pretty much every other tier 7 in the game. Well, that is pretty much the Smasher. Carries that same 152mm gun that the KV2 has, except its secondary rounds, which were normally AP, are now swapped out for heat with 250mm of standard pen. I run calibrated on the tank, so it's going all the way up to 275. The HE penetration on the tank, I think, is sitting at around 98mm. It is a crazy amount of high explosive pen. It means that if you literally get the side of even some tier 8 heavy tanks, you can literally whip off 1200 hit points on a max roll. This tank is super deadly. Not to mention, it has more accuracy than literally an SU-152, the tier 7 tank destroyer variant of the Smasher. So it's more accurate than the tank destroyer with the same gun. It has the same penetration. It's got better dispersion values. It is just a crazy vehicle, and this one is completely overpowered. Now, unfortunately, if you want to get your hands on this tank, you've got to drop a very pretty penny. Last time this tank came out in the game, it was in crates, and they were very expensive with a very low drop chance. So I'm not sure if this tank is going to be sold in a while. I'm not sure why Wargaming has not nerfed it, but it is a blast to run. I personally don't run it so much just because it is such a broken and overpowered tank. But if you do have this tank or you do get your hands on it, it is a blast to run on the battlefield, especially with that massive, massive derp gun. Into number 2, we have the RHMBWT, otherwise known as the Borsig. Now this tank has 2 gun options. You can run the smaller 128mm on this tank, which is actually a very accurate, nice gun, sort of like what you'd find on the Scorpion G, or you can run the big 152mm. Now this gun does a lot of damage, just like the KV2. 152mm deals 640 average damage. So it is a very, very deadly gun, especially it comes with 220mm of pen. It's definitely nothing special for a tier 8 vehicle, but it is enough to penetrate most heavy tanks, and if you need to, load that heat, and you're literally sitting at like 300mm of heat penetration. Now, a lot of you might be asking, why didn't I put the ISU in replacement for this vehicle? Now, the reason I don't think the ISU is really a derp tank is because it has 286mm of penetration, and honestly, it's not that inaccurate. You hit a lot of your shells with an ISU, where this tank, it's sort of like putting on a blindfold and literally just throwing at a dartboard drunk. It will never hit its shells when you aim them in fully, and when you whiff the shot across the map, it for some reason hits every single time, because that is the fun of the RHM. But it is a crazy, crazy vehicle to play on the battlefield. Definitely one of my favorite tier 8 tank destroyers. As fun as a Scorpion G is, as fun as an ISU is, it's just fun to whiff the shell across the map, watching it slowly fly through the air as it hits somebody across the map for 960 average damage with that crazy high explosive it does get. And finally, getting into the number 1 position, we have the FV215B183. I'm guessing a lot of you guys were already expecting this to be in the number 1 position, and how could it not be? Literally, as it says in the name, it carries a 183mm gun. This is literally 30mm larger than any gun I've shown in this video so far, giving it a whopping 900 average damage, with a crazy 326mm of standard penetration as well. Now that is when you are running calibrated, but it gets that special premium HESH that the British vehicles do get, so if you're not running this uncalibrated, you're definitely running it wrong. But that HESH gives you 1300 average damage, and that is crazy. You can literally kill some of the tier 9 opponents, like some of the tier 9 light tanks, some of the tier 9 tank destroyers, and literally kill them in a singular high roll. That is crazy to believe. So in my opinion, the 183 is definitely the biggest, derpiest tank in the game. You literally just one-shot any opponent you are going up against. I played this game, this was the first battle I played in the tank, literally pushed it aggressive on desert sands right up in the front lines, and you can see I just whip the hit points right off of enemy vehicles. Even a tank like a 57 heavy stands no chance to a penetrating HESH shell on the front of his armor. And while the 183 may definitely not be the best of tier 10 vehicles in the game, and in fact my opinion is it probably is the worst tier 10 vehicle in the game, and the reason for that being is because while it does carry a very large amount of damage, it has a terrible camouflage rating, and as well terrible accuracy going for it. But ooh, when it does penetrate, it really does hurt the enemy really, really bad. It works as a very good holding grounds because nobody wants to lose 1,000 hit points right off the bat. So I personally love the 183 for what it is, and it's just an extremely fun tank if you do like running tanks like this, but at the same time, you will be very, very frustrated when 20% of the games you play in it, you put out a whopping fat donut for damage. So these are my top 5 decisions on the biggest, baddest derp guns in World of Tanks Blitz. So let me know what you guys think in the comments down below. I had a couple ones that I wanted to throw in there as honorable mentions, but I can't throw in 5 tanks as honorable mentions. I was thinking of tanks like the WT, the SU-152. I was sort of debating whether to put that in place of the Smasher. But the issue is just that the Smasher's better in every single way, so why would you put a tank that's a little bit worse? And as well, I was definitely thinking about putting the T-49 in there, because the T-49 is, of course, the biggest, the baddest light tank in Blitz. But I definitely think that these tanks are the biggest and derpiest tanks in the game. Let me know what you guys think in the comments down below, though. If you agree with my decisions, if you think they are completely incorrect and they absolutely sucked, let me know, because I'm always up for discussion. If you want me to make a part 2 on this video talking about other tanks that I think are in there, let me know as well in the comments. If you have any other top 5 suggestions, I'm always up to looking for suggestions, so let me know what you guys think in the comments down below. Of course, if you like this video, hit that like button down below, hit that subscribe button. I hope you guys are all doing well out there. Stay happy, stay healthy, because it is pretty tough out there. Other than that, guys, I hope you're all doing well.